Hello, people. How are you? So, we are back with another video on JavaScript, and today's topic is object destructuring. It's a fascinating topic. If you are dealing with objects for a while now, you know that we store a lot of data inside an object, and when the time comes, we want to retrieve the data from the object for our usage. Now, this retrieval of the object or dealing with the object traditionally been a bit cumbersome. You have to use the dot operator to do that, or you have to use the subscript operator if the key is having a special character. If you are new to JavaScript or in programming as such and wondering what is object is a collection of key and value pairs where key can be of any string and value could be a number, boolean, or could be another object itself, right? So we store the data and we pick the data. And in this storing and picking, object destructuring is very handy feature. It's not exactly a feature, I would say it is a syntax that's got introduced in ES6. So if you learn this syntax, you will be a smart programmer because you'll be writing less code in dealing with object. In this video, what we are going to see is we are going to see 6 very important usages of object destructuring. Once you learn those usages, like how to deal with object destructuring in terms of extracting the values, dealing with functions, dealing in loop, you will be a master programmer in dealing with objects. Alright, so without any further delay, let's get into it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you are new to it. You will get lot more content in the coming days. Thank you. The first usage of object destructuring. In the first usage, what you're going to see, we will be destructuring this object to get the value of the properties, right? That's a very basic example, very basic usage. So without destructuring, how are you going to achieve this? For example, if I have to take out the value of the ID of the employee object, so we have this employee object and we'll do employee.id. Great, it is easy. Now if I ask you to do for the name, what you'll do, const name equals to employee.name. Okay, similarly probably you'll be doing for the department, and if I am asking you to do it for 25 attributes of an object, you will be writing it 25 times, and if I ask you to do console log, you'll be writing console.log again, and it's a lot of code for you. I don't want you to do that. So I want you to learn how to do object destructuring. Destructuring means breaking apart this object and then try to do everything possible with its properties and value. So let's do a destructuring of ID and name from the employee object. So what we'll be doing, the for destructuring we'll be doing like const ID comma name equals to employee. As simple as that. Now see how simple it is. Like you have the employee object, you keep the employee object over here. Whatever the properties, values you want to extract, just specify them in the comma separated form enclosed by a curly braces. That's all. Now you get the value of ID, you get the value of name. Great. Now if you want department, you just need to do a comma dept. That's all. If you need something else, you just do comma. So instead of writing it multiple times, 25 times for 25 attributes, you do it quite easily in a single line, right? So let's print this. So what we'll do like console.log of, maybe I'm interested to print ID and name, but before that, as you're using const and trying to kind of using the same name, it is going to collide. Okay, here's the point I want to say. So this ID, name and department, it is going to create the new variable for you with this ID, name and department with the const keyword automatically. JavaScript is going to do that automatically. Like you are doing it manually one by one like this, you don't have to do it anymore. So I'm going to kind of take this out because this is no more required. Let's comment and let's comment this guy as well. Awesome. So let's print this and see what is the output. So we see the output as 7 and gems as expected. This is great. Now what is next? Now let's say that I am taking a little bit more complex object. Complex object in the sense, in this case, the values are mostly string and the numbers. What if the values are another object? And so on. It is a kind of having nested objects all together, and I want to pick the values from the nested object using the keys. How am I going to do that? Let's take that as an example. So for that, let me make this employee object little bit more complex. Alright, so now we have taken a little bit more complex object. It's the same employee object but having some extra stuff, like the department was a string value before. Now the department value itself is an object which is having ID, name, address are the key, and again the value of address itself is an object which is having street and city are the key and their values respectively. So what we are going to do in this complex object, we are going to kind of get the value of address and street, for example. So what will you do? You will do like const address equals to the object name, that is employee, then the navigate using the depth key and then get into the address key. Great, you will get address. Now I ask you for the street. What you'll be doing, you'll be doing something similar. You will be doing like giving a variable name calls a street, something like street, and the street is inside address. So with dot notation you will get the street. That's great, but if you have to keep doing this for a complex object, you will not only increase horizontally, you will also increase vertically in terms of the code. So you will go this way, you will go this way, which is kind of not that great in the modern JavaScript era. So we are going to use again the destructuring to keep things simple for you. Alright, so let's do that with destructuring, and for that I'm going to comment out these things because it is going to create the variables with the same name. We have seen this before. Now to get the address, what we'll be doing, the rule is like this. If you want to get the address, you have to see whether address is part of an object or not. Yes, address is part of an object. Then see what is the key of that object. It is department. Is department is part of an object or not? Yes, it is, but it is part of the main object. Great. So that means we have to start traversing from the department. So we'll do like const and then dept is the key, and then the one I'm going to extract, which is like address in this case, and which is fortunately just inside department. So I will be able to kind of extract it. Let's run it through one more. Like I want to extract address. Address I'm going to extract. Is address is inside an object? Yes, it is inside a department. So we have to get the address through department. Great. Is department is part of another object? Yes, it is, but it's part of the main object. So department is my starting point. So department, then address, I'll be picking up the address. Great. Let's do street. So same thing. If I am going to take the street, I'll probably do this thing, similar thing. We'll start with street. Is street part of an object? Yes. What is the key? Address. Is address is part of an object? Yes. What is the key? DEPT. Is DEPT part of an object? Yes. What is the object? It is the root level object. So starting point is DEPT again. So we'll be going like DEPT. Inside that it is address, and then to traverse that more inside, what we'll be doing like street. I'm interested in street. So this is going to give me the street, and always at the right side it is the object name from where I'm going to extract the things, right? And then I'm going to print this guy console.log of address and the street. Okay, there is a problem with my spelling. Yeah, so it's going to print both the address and the street rightly. Now see here, we see that this is the address, which itself is an object, this object, and then we have the so we have the key, which is like the string. So this is cool, and this is what you need to remember, that be it a nested object or an object of one level, if you want to extract the value of your property, go for object destructuring. You will save your fingers, you will save your time, and you will become a smart programmer, right? So this is the usage number 1. Let's move to usage number 2. So in the usage number 2, what I'm going to see is like, with object destructuring, we can check if a particular property key is available in the object. If it is not available, let's extract it with some default value, right? For example, this employee object age is not available. Now I want to extract age, and I want to kind of assign that value to a variable, but I'm not sure whether age is available or not. There could be circumstances if I'm not sure. So in that case, I want to set a default value. Okay, how do we do this, right? Let's do that. In the regular fashion, we'll be doing something like say const age equals to whether employee dot age is available. If it is available, then we'll be doing like employee dot age. Otherwise, we'll be setting a default value of say 25. If this is something that we'll be doing this multiple lines of code with a kind of if else kind of logic statement. But if we don't want to do that, what we'll be doing with the destructuring, simple. So we'll be doing like const, let's say I'm extracting name, and along with that I'm checking age, and if the age is not there is 25, and then I'm doing employee, right? So I'm extracting, we have seen this extraction of a name value before. It will create a variable const name and assign the value this James to this. Now this will go to create a variable called age, but age value is not here, it is undefined. If it is undefined, it is going to assign the value 25. It is exactly same that the expression I have written above, but this is much beautiful, this is much concise, and this is much smart. So if I'm going to print this guy, say age, what I'm going to see in the console, I'm going to see 25. Now the next thing that what we want to see, using the same thing, we'll be able to do something little more interesting. So for example, this value whatever you have assigned 25 is pretty hard coded, right? Now you don't want to do a hard coded value. What you want to do, you want to kind of take this value or compute this value from the value of the existing keys. So let's do that, right? I'll be changing this a little bit. Instead of age, I'll put it like message, and then the value I can put like like name is say dbt, right? So what we're doing here, I'm having a message variable, creating a message variable, and this message variable I'm creating from the key values of employee object like name and department. This is, if you are new to this is called template literals. This is again part of ES6. We are going to create a new video for template literals soon. Instead of using the plus operator to concatenate the string, I am using it in much friendly way. So now if I am printing message over here, it is going to give me a message saying that this James is spy. Now one thing to remember over here, this guy is going to fail. Why? Because I am using DEPT, but DEPT I have not yet created. It is not extracted out. So if you want to use the value of the key of an object with object destructuring, you have to first destructure that and then you can use it. So this is going to fail. To make it work, I have to destructure it, and now it is going to work because now both name and department are destructured, they are available. Now you can construct a message using both of them and you could use it. This is a very beautiful use, and I would recommend that if you want to kind of create some variables on the fly based on the value of an object property, please consider doing this. No wonder, what do you see? James is spy. So this is our usage number 2. Let's move on to usage number 3. Let's talk about the usage number 3, and this is a quite interesting usage. Okay, in this usage we are going to talk about something called aliases. What exactly alias means? Alias means is a proxy or the duplicate of someone, right? Now in an application, you might happen that there is a variable already existing which is named DEPT. And once you're extracting DEPT from employee, you don't want to extract with the same name, because you'll get a naming conflict or naming collision, right? For that, what you're going to do, you're going to create an alias and you'll be using the alias name instead, right? So in our regular fashion with destructuring, what we used to do like DEPT and then from employee. So what this is going to do, this is going to destructure DEPT from this object and create a variable called const DEPT and assign the value spy to it. But if there is a DEPT already existing, you are in some trouble. So to save you from that trouble, how JavaScript helps is like you can create an alias name of your choice. So I can give it a name like department, and now I can use this department to do anything that I want. So I can print it. Now this department will have the value of spy. Not bad, right? Now one word of caution over here. Though you are able to use this alias and print it, remember that in this case the dept variable is not defined yet. You just defined a variable with name department. You have not defined a variable with dept. So test it out. If you do console.log of dept, I bet it is going to give that the variable dept is not defined. You see that? Uncaught reference error, dept is not defined. So that's the power, but you have to use the power with a bit of caution, right? Hope you liked aliases. Start using it. Let's move to next usage. So with the fourth usage, we are going to take the same object as an example, and we want to show a very critical, very useful usage. The usage is called handling dynamic name property. What exactly dynamic name property means? So far whatever we have done to extract a value from an object's property, we knew the name of the property. To extract the spy, we knew it is dept. To extract James, we knew it is name. To extract 007, we knew it is id. But there could be a situation in your programming that you don't know the key name. It is coming dynamically, but you still want to kind of retrieve that with object destructuring. How do you do that in that case? Let me show you first without destructuring how are you going to do it, and then we'll show like with destructuring how are you going to do it. So without destructuring, it will be like, it probably assign in a variable, say const. I think it makes sense to have it let because value will change. Say key equals to, let's say, id, and then you have that employee object, and with the employee object you will do something like this key, and then this is kind of going to give you the value of this id. So the value of this key will change dynamically, and this will change over here, and you are going to retrieve this. Now this is okay to do it, but in a bigger application where you have to handle with more dynamic properties and things like that, and you want to use the object destructuring because of all the usefulness we have discussed so far, how are you going to do that? So to kind of pretend that, let's see like we are trying to do something like this. Say const id equals to like a get property value, and let's say id is something that we are passing, and then let's take another one maybe for name. Let's say name, and then I'm passing this name on. Now if I have to write the definition of this get property value function, what exactly this function is going to be? So this function will be something like function get property value. It is taking a key, and inside this you have to return the value of that key. So you can do like return employee of key. This is one way of definitely doing it, but if you want to do in the object destructuring way, you can still do this, right? How are you going to do this in the object destructuring way? This is the way. Similar kind of syntax. You will first give the let const or whatever, then the curly braces, then you will give the key. Before also you were giving the key like id, whatever it is. Now with that, you will give alias name, let's say return value, and then you will equals with your employee object. Okay, now one thing that you have to see is like this key, you cannot give it here just straight away because employee doesn't have any key whose name is key, but we want to kind of evaluate it dynamically. So for that you have to give these square brackets around so that it will be treated like an expression. So in this case, when this method is getting invoked over here, the id is passed, id comes here. Now id comes here, it gets evaluated as an expression. Then we say like there is something called id in the employee. Yes, there is something called id in the employee, and now I am actually using a alias of return value so that I don't have any kind of conflict or as such, and then I am actually do this return value return, right? So this is going to give the name property dynamically to us, right? So let's create this function before we use it so that we don't get an error. And then if I now print both id and name, console.log id comma name, I am going to get both James as 007 and James printed. Now if you have to kind of take dept, you just call this method get property value passing the dept key and it will happen. Now think about this case, like this id, name, dept, all these things probably coming from your REST API call, your Ajax call, making the call to a server, which at the client side program, while writing the program, you're not aware of what is this key is going to be. Now receiving this key dynamically, you can pass them one by one to a function like this, and which is going to retrieve the value for you and going to return back the value, right? So that's the usage. This usage we call as handling dynamic name property of an object. Let's see the output, what is getting printed in the console before we move to the next one. As expected, it is 7 gems. All right, so let's see the next usage. Okay friends, so this is my most favorite usage of object destructuring. In this usage, we are going to see like how to destructure an object into a function's parameter and how to destructure the objects which are coming as return value from a function. And these are immensely used in the libraries and the frameworks like React, Vue, or any modern stuff. You will be using this, and if you know this, your programming is going to be much smarter. So let's do this. And also it's pretty simple to use, right? So you don't think it is like too huge thing. So to demonstrate that, I pretend that there is a function called say log employee, and it takes an employee object into that, and what it's going to do is going to print the employee object's attribute saying that the name is department, say James is spy, something like that. So you can pass any employee object, is going to print that. Now if I have to write this one, how I'm going to write this function, I can do like function log employee, and in this I can again pass this employee object as it is, with any name like as an argument, and then I can again take like employee dot name, then I can take like employee dot blah blah department, then I construct a string, and then I print it. Instead of all these things, what we can do, we can destructure this employee object right here itself. So employee object, what I'm going to get from this name and department, I can use this curly braces and do like any dpd completely over here. See how beautiful it is. No need of these things at all. Now what I'm going to do, as simple as that, I'm going to do console.log of $name is $dpt. How beautiful it is, how much less code we are writing. So I'm passing this guy, I'm calling log employee by passing an employee object as a parameter. In the argument, instead of taking the entire object and taking the values one by one from the keys, I can destructure it right here of whatever the keys we required, like name and department. This name and department automatically becomes a local variable in the local scope of this log employee, which I'm using to do anything. In this case, I am printing. So this is going to print James is spy. So let's see this. All right, James is spy. So we have seen like how to use this is as a parameter, and in the argument we are actually destructuring. Now in the next example, what we will be seeing is like similar kind of thing, but destructure a function's return value, right? So for that, let us create a function. So let's create a function. What function? Like say const get user, maybe get user function. And what exactly this function does, let's create like a normal function for simplicity, function get user, and what it returns, basically it returns an object, right? It returns an user object, something like that. Say name colon Alex, and then age is like say 45. All right, so this is the function that we have. Now what we want to do is like when this function is returned, like get user, when it is invoked, it is going to return this object, right? Now I want to get the age value from this one. Now the traditional way of getting that would be const obj equals to get user, then obj dot age, right? That's the traditional way. 2 lines of code. Why to waste it's obj, why to waste lot of energy? So instead of that, we can destructure things right here itself. So if I'm requiring for age, that's all, it's age, And now if you print the age, you are going to get 45. So this is really powerful concept when you're using object destructuring along with functions. Please use destructuring, not the old traditional way. It is going to save a lot of time for you. It will make you smart. All right. So we'll now move into our last usage, where we'll be seeing destructuring in loops, right? Let's see that. So our last usage is, a little more interesting. It's like, how are you going to destructure an object in a loop? And I hope that all the usage you have learned so far, you're enjoying. And if you're enjoying, if you're learning, from, my teaching, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because there are a lot more interesting stuff are going to come. All right. So what we'll be doing for this one, for looping, what we'll be doing is like we'll be taking an array of object. What is array of object? We know array is a collection of elements. Here in this case, each of the elements are going to be object, and we'll be looping through that. And while looping through, we'll be using the destructuring. Sounds complex, but pretty simple. Let's see that. All right, friends. So we have an object, users object, which is a array. Sorry, it's an user array of object. Not exactly the object, which is an array having bunch of users in it. Each of these users are represented by the user object. I have, I think, 1, 2, 3. And what we're going to do, we are going to loop through this and going to print the name and age or an address, or whatever you want, and all those things we can print. How do you do it? Now to print this one, usually if you don't want to do in the object destructuring way, how are you going to do that? You will be looping through this one with say for loop or for each loop, and after looping through each one, you have to store each of this object in a local variable, and then with the dot keyword you have to pick the keys to get the values. That's too much of work. Now I'm going to do this in a single line, almost a couple of lines. So let's do this. A for, and what I'm going to use is here, I'm going to use a for of loop. So for let, and I'm interested to pick up say name and age of my users array, and that's it. What I'm going to do is like console.log, dollar name is say dollar age years old. Isn't it so beautiful? Isn't it so powerful? So instead of completely iterating it and getting each of the object in a kind of local variable like this, and then go inside the object and then taking the keys, I am just destructuring. So what it's going to do, it is going to loop through this users object, figure out this first object. In that object, going to find the name and age, going to create a variable called late name, late age automatically for you, which is you are going to use over here. This is so very powerful. If I just print this, the output will be for each of this, like Alex is 43 years old, Bob is 53 years old, Carl is 26 years old. Let's see the output as well. See that? This is what is expected. So this usage is some mind-blowing usage. So if you are going to iterate through an array of object, please use object destructuring. This is going to give you a lot of stuff, much faster. So that's all about all the usages. I hope you enjoyed learning all the usages with me, and what's your takeaway from here is going to be like you are going to use object destructuring from now. You are not at all going to use any of those traditional way of getting values from an object. From today, object destructuring. From today, smart coding, right? So wasn't that great? Thanks for watching, and thank you very much for liking the content so far. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done already. I'm going to produce much more interesting content in the coming days. So please take care of yourself, take care of your health. I'll be back very soon with another video. Thank you.